Up first is hardware. So with the Gear 2, it features a 1.63-inch Super AMOLED display, a 1 GHz dual-core processor with 512 megabytes of RAM, an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a heart rate sensor, 4 gigabytes of internal memory. It's actually dust and water resistant with IP67 certification, similar to the Samsung Galaxy S5. It features an IR blast to go and control your TV and other devices along that realm. It features a 2 megapixel camera with 720p HD video capabilities, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later because it is a lot less funky than the original Galaxy Gear. It features a 300 mAh battery, and it charges via a cradle that looks less strange than the Galaxy Gears, but is still strange nonetheless. And the watch looks really great. I like how you're able to change the color of the band on there without having to buy a whole new entire watch, as it gives you, the consumer, a lot of customizability. As for the Pebble steel, it features a 1.26-inch 144 by 168 e-paper panel protected by Gorilla Glass, which means it's pretty scratch resistant. It features an LED light to let you know when you are charging your device. It has 8 memory slots for apps and things of that nature. And it features a 22mm watch band, which is sort of a downside considering the original Pebble featured a lesser millimeter count of a watch band, allowing you to really change the watch bands and have a much more versatile atmosphere of being able to just swap bands in and out and buy them off market. And then finally, it has 4 buttons along the side to navigate through the e-paper display and simplistic OS. Moving on is software, and starting with the Pebble Steel, it has a custom operating system that is very block and rectangular-like. That's nothing too surprising or anything that I'd scream and shout about. And the options added on the watch this year really show in the UI, and the experience is nice and pleasant, but again, it's not beautiful like Samsung's Tizen on the Gear 2. Navigating through the OS is very easy, and the options work very well within the operating system because most of the stuff was not featured on the original Pebble. And while the UI is okay looking, the real glory is the App Store here, so don't get too down about, the watch not looking too good in terms of the operating system, because trust me, the App Store will really blow you away. And finally, notifications and alerts can be driven to the watch, so that's always a big plus as long as it's set up on your Android or iOS device. As for the Gear 2, it's running Samsung's Tizen-based wearable platform this year, and this is definitely a different OS than we did see on the Galaxy Gear in the previous year, and it's very intuitive and allows for much more customization than the previous watch. And this is a good thing because I think Samsung took what they saw from the original Galaxy Gear and kind of just made it 10 times better because it was kind of lacking. It wasn't the best watch out in the market last year. And within the operating system itself, there's a lot of health functionality that we do see on the new Samsung Galaxy S5. And another feature that I really like is Watch On, which is the remote functionality, which allows you to control your TV with your watch. So that's always a cool, very functional thing that I personally just don't want to do with my remote. And the watch really complements your Samsung devices. That is what it's only available with right now. And that's where most of your commands will be executed on, is the device, and then they'll be beamed over via Bluetooth to the watch. The Gear 2 does receive notifications, and although the app offerings are limited, I think Samsung really did expand their horizons with the Gear 2 in terms of functionality and things that users really would want to do on a smartwatch. And I love being able to respond to notifications such as getting an email or a text message with S-Voice, and it's surprisingly very accurate with 3 tests that I did, responding to a text message and just shooting back a quick reply on an email. So that's always a big plus for those who are in a quiet space and want to go ahead and talk to the wrist, because in public it's a little bit weird to be using a voice assistant to a watch. So in terms of usage and looks, the Gear 2 really kills it this year, and I think Samsung took what they saw was lacking with the Galaxy Gear and kind of stepped it up in the Gear 2. So the watch is very easy to use, and it's even easier to go ahead and put on your wrist, as the clasp is a lot less intrusive and annoying as the Galaxy Gears, and it just looks a hell of a lot better than the previous model. And actually, there's a home button on here, and this is something that I really want to touch on in the hardware section. So which means instead of having to swipe through all the menu bars and just try to get back to the menu, you just hit the home button and you're all set to go, and it'll take you right back to that home screen where the majority of your functions will lie. So since the watch looks a lot less strange, this is going to give a lot of consumers peace of mind when trying to adopt a smartwatch, because some people are just not with the whole technological age of putting technology on your body. And I think that's where Samsung is really trying to target, is getting the average consumer to go and hop on the smartwatch game, because it is a very helpful piece of technology. And I think by making it less intrusive and just making it less weird than the Galaxy Gear, it'll really sell very well. And then finally, being able to switch out the bands is super cool, because a lot of people don't want to stick with one color, and depending on the season or mood they're in, they want to go and switch them out, and that's always very cool and very easy to do on the Samsung Gear 2. As for the Pebble Steel, the overall feeling and look of it just screams premium, and it's really targeted to those who want a great smartwatch that can add a little bit more functionality than the original Pebble and kind of be suited in a business environment. The OS is very easy to comprehend, and while it's not all as flashy or colorful as the Gear 2 does tout, it's very simple to use, and I think a lot of consumers are going to appreciate the great quality of the e-paper panel on the Pebble Steel. And being able to change the bands is also a big plus that we did see on the original Pebble, so that's always very cool for those types of consumers that want to kind of spice up their watch, just make it a little bit different from season to season. And overall, just navigating it with the very tactile buttons on the side just kind of gives the user who doesn't really want to be using a touchscreen on their watch a kind of nice tactile feel and responsiveness whilst browsing through the menu. Transitioning on is compatibility, and this is kind of where one excels and the other kind of lacks. So starting with the Gear 2 here, it is only compatible with 17 Samsung devices at the moment of recording this video, and this really sucks because any type of Samsung wearable, whether it's the Gear Fit, the Gear 2 Neo, or just the Gear 2 you're seeing in this video, it only works with Samsung devices, and I know a lot of these wearables really do excel, and the fact that you can't use them if you own an Nexus 5 or an HTC One M8 really sucks. And I know there's some ways around them, but there's not really stock compatibility with any of these. So hopefully in the future we'll be seeing this along with an app store, because Samsung, you're really killing your greatest creations of wearables, and that's what's going to hold you guys back in the wearable market, because without having compatibility to both sides, it's not really going to go too well, and it's going to be hard to control the market share. As for the Pebble Steel, it's not the exact same case here, as it's available for both iOS and Android as long as it has the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So that's fantastic, as a lot of people can take advantage no matter their device and get to access the great things that both the Pebble App Store features on Android and on iOS. So more users can adapt to the different quirks that Pebble still has with either their Android or iOS device. So battery life pretty much sucks on any smartphone now, but it is getting better, so maybe in the future it'll get better for smartwatches. But for the Gear 2 featuring a 300 mAh battery, I was actually able to achieve around 2 full days worth of use, and I was using this thing pretty normally, getting notifications coming into my phone delivered to the watch, and kind of using it a little bit. I'd go for a workout and use the heart rate monitor, just general stuff on this guy. I think what most consumers will be using with it. And I think the battery life is not horrible on here, but people need to understand this isn't a Rolex or a G-Shock where you're never going to have to worry about the battery. It's a smartwatch, it has Bluetooth, it does things that are smart that most other watches cannot do without being charged on the daily. So I'm fine with charging my watch in the funky little cradle that is with the Gear 2, but some consumers are not. And with the Pebble Steel, I was able to achieve around 2 to 3 days worth of normal use. Of course, notifications were coming into my iPhone. I was playing some games, using some of the cool functionalities found in the App Store. So just general stuff on these watches will pretty much get you more than a day's worth of use, which is very good because you don't want to be charging a watch every day. That's very annoying. I've been in that scenario. So I think 2 days is probably the sweet spot, at least right now, for technology, and hopefully in the future battery sizes will get bigger. But around 2 to 3 days is what you can expect on the Pebble Steel, and around 2 days maximum using the watch at a normal pace is what you'll be seeing on the Gear 2. And for my favorite part of the video, it's the new features. So starting with the Gear 2, it features a camera which is a lot less intrusive, and we did see a camera on the Galaxy Gear, but this one's kind of hidden in the bezel, and it looks a lot better because it is a 2 megapixel camera over a 1.9 megapixel camera. So shots look good. There's a viewfinder you can see on the watch when taking videos or photos, and you can actually achieve 720p HD video, which in some people's minds is good. I personally like to shoot 1080, but I'm not going to complain too much because it is video being shot on a smartwatch. In terms of health integrations, and this is one of the biggest things we're seeing with Samsung's wearables in 2014, or at least in early 2014, because maybe they got some cool stuff in store, is the heart rate monitor, and again, just the health integrations. So typically I like to go work out, and I like to be able to track my heart rate just to kind of get it up to a certain rate, because that's when I know I'm really at my maximum potential in terms of working out. And the heart rate monitor on here is dead accurate, and it's very similar to the Samsung Galaxy S5's heart rate monitor, and I really like the health integrations and the health approach Samsung is taking over other manufacturers, just relying off third-party support. So up next is the home button, and believe me guys, if you own the Galaxy Gear, the original one, you know how great this is, because in order to get home in the past, you had to swipe down from every single menu, and it was just so annoying. So the home button just allows you to go right back home where the majority of your functions will lie. So that's always a nice addition on the Neo and